All right, so today we're diving deep into the story of Deborah.
Deborah.
Yeah. The only female judge and prophetess in the Bible. And you've given us some pretty fascinating excerpts from the Grace Digital Network's video on her.
Right.
Honestly, where do we even begin?
Well, I think
It's this incredible story of oppression and faith.
Yeah.
And this woman who just like against all odds helped to change the course of history.
I think what's really striking is just the setting. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking about Israel under the rule of King Jabin,
Okay.
a Canaanite king,
Right.
and his commander Sisera.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources really emphasize this, like the 900 iron chariots,
Oh, wow.
which were essentially the tanks of their time.
Yeah, like that's
Talk about intimidating force.
a serious threat. No wonder the Israelites were just living in fear.
Right.
The source talks about how they would avoid main roads and stick to like hidden paths just
Right.
to try and stay safe.
You know?
Can you imagine that?
I did that.
Like that feeling of constantly looking over your shoulder,
Absolutely.
never knowing when danger might strike.
And this fear wasn't unfounded.
Right.
You know, the source really points out this pattern
Yeah.
throughout Israelite history.
Okay.
This cycle of disobedience.
Interesting.
So they would stray from God, face the consequences, and cry out for help
Yeah.
and find deliverance.
They'd be saved.
And then they just fall right back into old habits.
Back into the same
It's a-
cycle again.
Makes you wonder,
Yeah.
have you ever found yourself in a similar cycle?
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe not with divine consequences,
Right.
but just straying from your values,
Yeah.
leading to a predictable outcome.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
a pretty universal human
Human experience,
experience. Yeah.
isn't it?
It is. And that's what makes Deborah's story so compelling.
Yeah,
She emerges as this beacon of leadership
Right.
during one of these cycles.
exactly.
But she's not just a judge settling disputes. She's also a prophetess. Like she's communicating directly with God.
And that is extraordinary for the time.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it.
Okay.
Women in leadership roles were incredibly rare,
Especially spiritual leadership.
especially spiritual leadership. Exactly.
So,
Her position as a prophetess
yeah,
really speaks volumes
it does.
about her character
Yeah.
and the respect she must have commanded.
And yet when she calls on Barak, this seasoned military commander,
Right.
to gather troops and fight Sisera, he hesitates.
He does.
He tells her he'll only go if she goes with him.
That's a fascinating detail, isn't it?
What is that?
You have this experienced warrior,
Right.
and even he needs that extra bit of assurance.
Yeah, it makes you wonder
It does.
if true courage comes from knowing you're not alone in the fight.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think that's a very insightful point.
It really humanizes Barak, doesn't it?
It does.
Shows that even the bravest among us have those moments of doubt.
Right.
It's almost as if he needs to see Deborah's unwavering faith to bolster his own.
Exactly.
And then there's the battle itself.
Right.
Despite Barak's 10,000 warriors, the Israelites are still severely outnumbered
Right, they are facing
by Sisera's forces.
those dreaded chariots.
And those chariots.
Yeah.
And this is where things take like a dramatic turn.
They do.
The source describes a sudden flash flood,
Wow.
turning the Kishon River into a raging torrent.
So those chariots,
Yeah.
Sisera's biggest advantage,
Right.
now become bogged down in the mud.
Talk about a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, the source doesn't explicitly say
Right.
this was divine intervention, but it certainly makes you wonder,
That does.
doesn't it? What
Yeah.
seems like a disadvantage,
Right.
fighting on open ground against chariots,
You would think they
suddenly flipped on its head.
completely turned around.
It makes you think about the power of strategy
Absolutely.
and perhaps a bit of luck.
Or perhaps something more.
Okay.
The source seems to be hinting at a power
Right.
beyond human control that's shaping these events.
Okay.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
What happens next is just as fascinating.
Okay.
We have the mighty Sisera,
Uh-huh.
forced to flee on foot,
Wow.
seeks refuge with Jael,
The hell.
the wife of Heber the Kenite.
Okay.
Now, he must have thought he was safe,
He must have.
especially considering the peace treaty
Right.
between King Jabin and Heber's clan.
Yeah, so
But the source really draws you in with the description of what happens next.
okay.
So Jael welcomes him in,
Right.
gives him milk,
Uh-huh.
covers him with a rug,
To help him sleep.
and then while he's sleeping,
Oh my gosh.
drives a tent peg through his temple.
Wow.
It's a brutal end
It is.
for a fearsome commander.
Wow.
And it raises some really interesting questions.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a heroic act?
All right.
Is this a betrayal of hospitality?
Right.
Or is this a necessary act of war?
It's not so black and white, is it?
It really highlights the moral complexities of the situation.
Yeah.
The source doesn't explicitly condemn or condone Jael's actions.
Okay.
So it's really left open to interpretation.
It is.
That strikes you about this.
It makes you realize that history isn't always about clear-cut heroes and villains.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are forced to make really difficult choices in extraordinary circumstances.
Absolutely.
But one thing's for sure.
Yeah.
Deborah's story wouldn't be complete without mentioning the Song of Deborah.
The Song of Deborah.
It's more than just a victory anthem.
Right.
It's a testament to her leadership and the profound impact of these events that we have just been discussing.
Absolutely. This song, performed by Deborah and Barak after the victory, served a much greater purpose than a simple celebration. It was a public declaration of God's power, a way to solidify the Israelite community and inspire future generations.
Yeah, and the source really explains how songs like this were used in ancient cultures. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a way to transmit knowledge and create a shared sense of identity.
Yeah.
We talked about the cycle of disobedience, but Deborah's song is almost like a counterpoint to that.
Interesting.
You know, a way to solidify the lessons learned.
Right.
And hopefully prevent history from repeating itself.
It's fascinating how she uses this song to address not just the victory, but also these complexities of community and leadership.
Okay.
She even calls out the tribes.
Really?
Who didn't participate in the battle.
Wow.
Questioning their absence while others risked their lives.
It's almost like she's holding them accountable.
She is.
Like asking them to reflect on their choices and the impact that those choices have on the community as a whole.
Exactly.
It makes you think about the responsibility.
It does.
We all have to speak up and take action when necessary.
Absolutely.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right.
Let's take a closer look at the song itself.
Great.
One passage that always gives me chills is this. From the heavens, the stars fought. From their courses, they fought against Sisera.
Wow.
It's such a powerful image.
It is.
It captures the epic scale of this battle and the sense of divine intervention.
It's masterfully crafted.
It is.
You know, she doesn't shy away from the graphic descriptions of the battle.
Yeah.
She even mentions Sisera's mother anxiously awaiting his return.
Oh, wow.
Unaware of his fate.
Yeah.
But beyond just the violence,
right,
the song really emphasizes the emotional impact, the victory, the relief and the joy experienced by the Israelites.
Yeah, it's not just a dry historical account.
It's not.
It's a deeply human story, full of pathos and triumph.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder.
It is.
That even though this story took place centuries ago, it still resonates with us today.
It does.
Deborah's story is about courage, faith, and the unexpected ways in which leadership can emerge.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there's one crucial piece of this story we haven't fully explored yet.
Right.
And that is Barak.
Barak.
He's often overshadowed by Deborah.
He is.
But his role in this story is vital.
It is.
To understanding these complexities of leadership and faith.
And that's where we'll pick up in our next segment.
Okay.
We'll delve into Barak's character.
Okay.
Explore his strength, his vulnerabilities, and what his journey tells us about the multifaceted nature of leadership.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
It's interesting how the source highlights Barak's, internal struggle. He's clearly a capable military leader.
Right.
But he also seems to wrestle with this doubt.
Yeah. Like his request for Deborah to accompany him to battle really speaks volumes.
It does make you wonder if true faith always comes easily.
Yeah.
Barak seems to need that tangible reminder of God's promise, a physical embodiment of that assurance.
Yeah.
Almost like he needs to see Deborah's unwavering faith in action to bolster his own.
It's a relatable struggle, though, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, how many times have we faced a challenge and kind of wished we had someone there by our side to remind us of our strengths, our purpose?
Absolutely.
It's almost as if Barak needs that external validation. to step fully into his own leadership role.
Right.
And speaking of leadership, there's that intriguing prophecy that Deborah delivers.
Yeah.
She tells Barak that he won't receive the full glory of victory because it'll come at the hands of a woman.
Interesting.
And at first glance, you think she's referring to herself. Right.
Right. As we know, it's Jael who ultimately delivers that fatal blow to Sisera.
It is.
This unexpected twist adds another layer of complexity to this whole narrative.
It does.
It challenges our assumptions, doesn't it?
It does.
You know, we might expect the prophetess to be the one to like bring about the victory.
Yeah.
But instead, it's this seemingly ordinary woman who steps into the role of unlikely hero.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if the source is intentionally subverting our expectations about who holds power and how it's wielded.
Yeah, and it's a powerful message too.
It is.
Especially considering the societal norms of the time.
Exactly.
I mean, women were often relegated to just the domestic sphere, yet here we have Jael taking this decisive action that shapes the entire course of history.
It makes you reconsider those traditional notions of leadership and heroism.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Absolutely. It reminds us that impactful actions can come from the most unexpected sources.
They can.
But let's not forget the wider context of this victory.
Okay.
You know, Deborah's actions weren't just about winning a battle.
Right.
They were about breaking this cycle of oppression that had plagued the Israelites
for 20 years.
For 2 decades under King Jabin's rule.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes that this victory led to a period of peace and security for the Israelites.
It's not just a momentary triumph.
It's not.
It had lasting consequences for the entire community.
For the whole community.
It speaks to that ripple effect of courageous leadership.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the ripple effects of our own actions, even those that seem small or insignificant at the time.
Exactly.
But before we stray too far from the source material, there's one more aspect of the Song of Deborah that I find really striking. Okay. She specifically names the tribes that did not participate in the battle.
Okay.
Reuben, Dan, and Asher.
Asher.
It's a bold move, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, instead of just celebrating the victory, she uses this song to hold these tribes accountable for their inaction.
Wow.
It raises questions about communal responsibility.
Right.
The courage to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
And the consequences of choosing to remain on the sidelines. What do you make of her decision to call them out so publicly?
I think it's a powerful statement about leadership.
Yeah.
She's not just celebrating the victory.
Right.
She's using it as an opportunity to challenge the community.
To reflect.
To reflect on their values and their commitment to one another.
It's almost like she's saying, you know, this victory was a collective effort, but some of you chose not to be a part of it.
Wow.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a question that resonates even today, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We all face those moments where we have to decide whether to speak up, to take action, or to remain silent.
Remain silent.
And those choices can have far-reaching consequences.
They can.
And while we're reflecting on choices and consequences, it's worth revisiting Barak's role in all of this.
Okay.
You know, he initially hesitates.
Yeah.
Requests Deborah's presence for reassurance.
Right.
But he does ultimately lead those troops into battle. Plays a critical role in that victory.
Yeah.
It begs the question.
It does.
How do we reconcile his initial hesitation with his eventual courage?
That's a great question.
Is it possible that his journey is meant to represent those complexities of faith and leadership?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And one that deserves further exploration.
Yeah.
Perhaps the source is suggesting that true leadership isn't about unwavering certainty, but it's about acknowledging our doubts, seeking support when needed, and ultimately finding the courage to act despite our fears.
It's a reminder that even the most capable leaders are human with their own internal struggles, moments of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
But what's truly inspiring is that they find a way to overcome those challenges. And step into their leadership roles.
And in Barak's case, perhaps Deborah's presence served as that crucial catalyst.
That external
source of strength that enabled him to find his own inner resolve.
I like that.
It makes you wonder about the power of mentorship.
Yeah.
and the role that it plays in shaping leadership potential.
Yeah. It's a theme that resonates throughout history.
It does.
Even in our own lives, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We all have those figures who inspire us, challenge us to be our best selves, guide us on our own leadership journeys.
Yeah.
But speaking of leadership journeys, let's shift our focus back to Barak. We've talked about his initial hesitation.
Right.
But now it's time to delve deeper into his character, explore what his story reveals about these diverse and often unexpected ways in which leadership can manifest.
Sounds good.
We've talked about Barak's hesitation, you know, his need for Deborah to be there with him.
Right.
But he still gathered the troops right.
He did.
He led them into battle, played a vital role in the victory.
Absolutely.
So how do we reconcile those seemingly contradictory parts of his character?
Well, I think what's so fascinating is that the source doesn't shy away from presenting him as a complex figure. He's not a flawless hero.
Right.
And I think that's what makes him so relatable.
Yeah.
His story suggests that true leadership isn't about blind faith or unwavering certainty.
Okay.
But it's about acknowledging those doubts, seeking guidance when needed, and ultimately finding the courage to act.
Even when fear is present.
Even when fear is present.
Yeah, it's almost like the source is saying, it's okay to have doubts.
Right.
It's okay to need reassurance.
Yeah.
What matters is you don't let those doubts paralyze you.
Exactly.
You find a way to move forward.
Right.
Step into the challenge.
And in Barak's case, Deborah's presence seems to provide that crucial support.
It's like that external
source of strength
that he needs.
That he needs to bolster his own.
Right. And I think it's a beautiful example of how like different forms of leadership can complement each other.
Absolutely.
It's like they're both essential pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, Deborah provides that spiritual vision, the unwavering belief in God's promise, and Barak provides that military expertise, the tactical leadership to actually like execute the plan.
You know, and think about how this challenges our traditional notions of what constitutes a hero.
Right.
We often think of heroes as these larger-than-life figures.
Right. Fearless, invincible.
Yeah.
But Barak's story reminds us that heroism can also be found in the midst of vulnerability.
Right.
In the struggle to overcome our doubts and step into our potential.
It's a much more human and relatable kind of heroism.
It is.
And it makes me think about Deborah's prophecy.
Right.
That the victory would come at the hands of a woman. You know, at first glance, you think she's referring to herself.
Right.
But as we know,
it's
Jael who delivers that fatal blow to Sisera.
Right. And this detail adds another layer of complexity.
To the whole story.
To the story. Yeah. It's not just about Deborah and Barak.
Right.
It's about this network of individuals, each playing a crucial role in this larger narrative of liberation.
And it highlights how sometimes the most impactful actions come from unexpected sources.
They do.
It's like the source is intentionally subverting our expectations.
About who holds power
Yeah.
and how it's wielded.
Exactly.
You know, a woman confined to the domestic sphere
Right.
by societal norms becomes the instrument of Sisera's downfall.
Wow.
It's a powerful reminder that history is full of these unsung heroes.
It is.
Individuals whose contributions might be overlooked,
Right.
but who nevertheless shape the course of events.
And it challenges us to think more broadly about what constitutes leadership.
Okay.
It's not always about holding a formal position of power.
Right.
Or commanding an army.
It can be much more subtle than that.
It can be.
Right.
Sometimes it's about having the courage to act.
In a decisive moment.
In a decisive moment, even if those actions seem small or insignificant in the grand scheme of things.
It's like that ripple effect we talked about earlier.
A ripple effect.
One seemingly small action can have far-reaching consequences.
It can.
Set in motion a chain of events that leads to profound change.
Absolutely. And in the case of Deborah, Barak, and Jael, those actions ultimately led to the liberation of an entire people from oppression.
Their story reminds us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, hope is never lost. Courage can be found in unexpected places. Faith can move mountains. And even the most ordinary individuals can become catalysts for extraordinary change.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, into the story of Deborah.
Yeah.
What stands out to you as like the most important takeaway?
Well, for me, it's the reminder that leadership isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. It can manifest in different ways, through different strengths, different approaches. Deborah's unwavering faith, Barak's strategic leadership, and Jael's courageous act. All contributed to this incredible triumph. It's a beautiful example of how collaboration and a willingness to embrace our unique gifts
can lead to
extraordinary outcomes.
It's a message that resonates deeply, isn't it?
It does.
And it makes me think about the potential that lies within each of us to make a difference in the world, to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
Deborah's story is a testament to the power of faith, courage, and this like enduring human spirit.
It is.
And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to keep exploring.
Keep learning.
There's so much more to uncover.
There is.
So many more layers to this story.
Right.
And countless other stories waiting to be discovered.
Keep digging.
Don't stop here.
Keep questioning.
Keep digging.
And keep letting yourself be inspired by the remarkable individuals who have shaped our world.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.